What's up, Title Tribe? It is Coach Schepps of toiletstotitles.com and the Toilets to Titles Podcast Network. I'm here to tell you what I learned from the Thursday night matchup in week 2 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings at the Link, where the Philadelphia Eagles won 34-28. The first thing that stood out to me, I think stood out to the whole world that watched this matchup, is the Minnesota Vikings run defense is terrible. Ivan Pace can play. He's a good, explosive linebacker, but you cannot be counting on him to be your only guy in interior run stuffer. The Vikings let up 250 yards on the ground, 5.6 yards per carry. They knew what was coming. They knew when it was coming. They knew where it was coming, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. And they knew the game depended on it. They were down by 1 touchdown, 6 points. They could re-enter the game, make a big stop, get the ball back, and no matter what they did, Eagles held them against their will. They pushed the line of scrimmage, and DeAndre Swift absolutely went off, which leads me to my next point. The Eagles have some running back studs who can play, and fantasy football managers have some problems because there is going to be a rotation, and the Philadelphia Eagles do not care about your fantasy football roster. Kenny Gainwell in week 1, 14 carries, 54 yards. 4 receptions, 20 receiving yards. Sits out last night. DeAndre Swift does nothing last week. This week, 28 carries, 175 yards, 1 touchdown. That was the most carries he's ever had in a single game in his career. Boston Scott, very, very quietly, 5 carries for 40 yards. It's 8 yards per carry. All right, and then they got Rashad Penny, who's barely doing anything. They got guys who can play. They're going to rotate them because it is about 17 games in the playoffs. It's not about your fantasy roster, unfortunately. And we're a fantasy football site, so shout out to toiletstitles.com. And I care. I roster DeAndre Swift on the team. This is the week to trade DeAndre Swift. Luckily, it's Friday, which gives you 2 extra days. You're not going to trade him for this week. You can sit through Sunday. You can see a competitor in your league whose running back goes down, who thinks he's in it this year, whether it's dynasty or redraft, and you propose DeAndre Swift, and you get somebody of equal compared to what he did this week or greater value, somebody consistent that you could start week in and week out. I'd go target Chris Olave. PPR, go get a guy like Chris Olave because every week his floor, 7 receptions. His floor PPR points, 14 points. DeAndre Swift, you're not going to know, and this is the week to move on from DeAndre Swift. Kirk Cousins showed up in prime time. 31 completions, 44 attempts, 364 yards, 4 touchdowns against an Eagles defense that was in his face nonstop. His O-line wasn't helping him. It's hard to against that defensive line. He threaded the needle multiple times, and that's what really impressed me. There were some tight window throws where he trusts his wide receivers, and sometimes that's got him in trouble in the past. No interceptions last night. No interceptions Thursday night. Threading the needle, big moments, prime time. Shout out to him. Shout out to the Toilets to Titles Podcast Network. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. If one of these storylines you agree or disagree with, if you're keeping DeAndre Swift and you think it's Swift's season, he's going to finish top 5, let me know in the comments, all right? Regardless, we appreciate you and we appreciate your support. The next note from this game, Eagles defensive line is a problem. I mean, they invested so much in it, and their investments are paying off because a lot of times you see teams invest in position groups in the draft multiple times, maybe 1 out of 2 pan out. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, they're going to be a problem for the next decade. Fletcher Cox has been a problem for a decade. And Josh Sweat, 5 quarterback hits last night. They combined for 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 10 total quarterback hits, consistent pressure, overpowering. You see defenses that are good at bull rushing. You see defenses that are good at, their speed, their technical. The Eagles have a combination of guys who can bull rush, guys who are technical, guys who are quick off the edge, guys who can bend. It's just offensive linemen, when they're moving these defensive linemen around, they don't know what they're getting because every one of these defensive linemen does something a little bit different, but they're successful at it. The guy who hasn't been too successful is Alexander Madison. He's okay, but the Vikings' rushing attack is non-existent. 8 carries last night, 28 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. He's a rotation guy. He's not the answer. He's not the replacement for Dalvin Cook. They got to draft somebody next year or pick up the phone. Hey, Jim Irsay, I heard Jonathan Taylor's available. I'd like to add him to my stud offense with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, so we could try to make a run in this division where now the Detroit Lions look scary and the Green Bay Packers, they're not messing around either. They're not great. They're not elite. They might not be a playoff team, but they're going to be competitive. Ty Chandler, is he going to get any reps? He's combined for 4 carries for zero yards through 2 weeks. Through 2 weeks, he has 3 receptions for 27 yards. I don't know. I'm picking up the phone. I'm calling the Colts. These wide receiver twos, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, they will both produce wide receiver number one, wide receiver nums. They'll both produce wide receiver 1 numbers for your fantasy rosters. They don't need the volume because defenses are stacking their attention to guys like A.J. Brown, to this Eagles rushing defense, to Justin Jefferson. And it is giving Addison and Devontae Smith one-on-one opportunities where they just need chunk plays. Devontae Smith, 4 receptions, 131 yards, and a touchdown. Jordan Addison, 3 for 72 and a touchdown. If I have Smith or Addison, it's more likely you have Addison in the position where you can play him in a flex play in PPR. Devontae Smith, you probably drafted as a wide receiver 2. But if I have 2 receivers on my roster that I feel comfortable as a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2, and I could put Smith or Addison in my flex, I'm feeling golden because every week there's a chance they can rip off chunk plays and get me lots of points. Now, if you like what we're saying, if you like some of this advice I'm giving, reach out to me, toiletstetitles@gmail.com. We have a fantasy football community chat on the Gilded app where we're not only talking fantasy football, we're talking NFL draft, we're talking NFL. We have over 250 people in there. During the games, we have a live chat. We're doing start-sit advice. We're doing trade advice. We're doing gambling advice. We'd love to add you to the community. Again, to get into the community, toiletstetitles@gmail.com. Let them know Coach sent you. All right, my next note is Justin Jefferson, matchup proof. A.J. Brown is not. A.J. Brown went 4 receptions for 29 yards last night. The Eagles leaned run heavy because it worked. They didn't abandon the run because the run was working. And the Eagles are concerned with winning the ball game, and they can win a ball game in multiple ways. The Minnesota Vikings, they're not competing nor winning ball games without Justin Jefferson being involved. They're going to throw to Justin Jefferson regardless. Again, Jefferson matchup proof. A.J. Brown is not. The tush push, it's still unstoppable, man. Multiple 4th and shorts, goal line situations. Jalen Hurts, that Eagles offensive line, they get it done. Jalen Hurts' fantasy day was saved. 2 short yardage rushing touchdowns. Tush push is a problem. Teams all across the league, when you're playing the Eagles, you better have some sort of package figured out because nobody's figured it out just yet. And I want to figure out this next question. Is something up with Dallas Goedert? In redraft, I had him as a top 5 tight end. In Dynasty, I was pushing him up. I'm a big fan of Dallas Goedert. He does a little bit of everything. He's scrappy, good hands catcher, good after the catch. But he's not living up to that capital right now. 6 receptions for 22 yards, 3.7 yards per reception. That's horrendous. He had 0 receptions in week 1. I don't know if he's healthy. I think something might be going on with Dallas Goedert. Something isn't going on with Danielle Hunter because this dude looks real healthy. 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 4 total sacks in the season. This dude is trying to secure the bag. He is going to secure the bag as long as he can stay healthy. 8 tackles last night, 5 solo. What you notice from him is just relentless pursuit, relentless effort. He's being double teamed. He's not even collapsing the pocket, but he's staying aggressive. He's getting hands off his shoulder pads. And as soon as Jalen Hurts steps up, he's getting away and making the sack, making the tackle. Danielle Hunter looked very good. A.J. Brown, my last note of the night, he wants the ball. Even when his team is finding success elsewhere, you're going to see on social media, Facebook, Twitter, ESPN, people are going to call out A.J. Brown. He's selfish. He wanted the ball. But guess what? That sounds no different than 90% of the wide receivers who play in the NFL right now or have played in the NFL at some point, or rather 90% of the wide receiver ones, the alphas, maybe the guys who are the 2s or the 3s, they're used to it. So they're not barking. He's barking because he wants the ball because he knows he's a playmaker. Jalen Hurts targeted him. When he was done barking, that next drive, immediately after, Jalen Hurts went for him. So Jalen Hurts can handle it. I don't think it hurt the roster. All right, Jalen Hurts saw it. Got his guy the ball. The Eagles still won. Everything is going to be okay. A.J. Brown is not a problem. He's part of the solution. And I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan. You can see over my shoulder here. So I'd like the Eagles to have some problems, but it's not a problem. He is no different than an alpha wide receiver. So that does it for my Thursday night football recap. Again, reach out to us, toiletstetitles@gmail.com. We'll get you in the Gilded chat. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if there's any notes I missed, if there was anything I was wrong about. Hit us a like, hit us a subscribe, and I'll catch you all later on. Thank you. Take care.